and welcome to Habit Nerd, a podcast show that knows that few things can have a more powerful impact on your life than improving your daily systems, habits, and mindset. I'm your host, Dr. Bree Hurn, a multi-passionate researcher, lecturer, speaker, and coach. Once a perfectionist who was always busy but not necessarily effective, I overcame illness and burnout and am now obsessed with sharing the science and systems for working with efficiency and habits for abundant health in your mind and your body. Each week, my guests and I share stories and lessons backed by research. So let's buckle up and dive straight into today's empowering conversation. Okay, hello Habit Nerds. My guest today is the very warm, very funny, clever, and above all knowledgeable Mel Browne. Now, Mel is a financial expert. She's a former accountant and a financial advisor who is passionate about redefining wealth for women. Mel is generous and honest about her own bumpy journey on her way to becoming a multi-million-dollar business owner, and she advocates for empowering women towards financial adulting so that we have real choice, so that we can reduce the wage gap and that we can look after ourselves. So Mel, as I say these words, it strikes me that there would be few things less important than that. So welcome to the Habit Nerd podcast, and I can't wait to dive into how our money habits can set us up for a future of freedom. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am absolutely a nerd and a habit nerd, so I love the name of your podcast.
Oh, great. We've come to the right place. I'm delighted, as I said, to have you. So let's get into our questions, Mel. I start with all of my guests asking, what is a habit that serves you, that helps you to show up as the person that you'd like to be?
Look, when I was thinking about this question, I think my answer is for all parts of my life. Like whether it's business, whether it's friendship, whether it's husband. And that is I have a habit of really protecting my energy. So I am so aware that I am an introvert. And now I set up my life in a way that I am able to be situationally extroverted, but I have really strong boundaries. So my calendar is a work of art. If I am doing something where I am outward facing, like today, for example, then tomorrow I will very much be in my zone, in flow, just getting stuff done. And I've found that if I don't do that, if I don't have that habit of protecting my energy, and making sure that I have that time to myself, then I'm looking for a dopamine hit with my finances because I am depleted and needing a boost, and I'm looking to the wrong places. So I'm hitting spend, or I'm leaning on chocolate, or I'm hitting the sugar. So I see that show up in all areas of my life if I do that badly.
Wow, that's really insightful. Thanks so much for sharing, Mel. I certainly can relate to this idea of being forward-thinking and intentional with how you're investing your energy. Are you talking about physical energy as well as your mental and emotional energy there as well?
Absolutely. Yep. So, for example, if I have a really big weekend, and it might be fun big, for me, that emotional energy is just as much a credit spend as physical. Then I will make sure that on Monday I have a really calm Monday. If I am presenting on stage, then I make sure for 2 days after that, I'm still working, but I'm working without any outward facing where I'm having to talk to people, where I don't have meetings. Because if I had a meeting the day after a keynote, for example, they're not going to get my best self. So it's setting up my work so that I can work sustainably, but also so that, as I said, it's not a financially depleting thing because I haven't finished the keynote, I'm doing something else and something else. And so I hit click to spend far more regularly than I feel comfortable.
And that's really important introspection and reflection that you've done about your own habits. And so, if it's a lack of energy or an exhaustion that it's leading to you doing things that are less desirable, like spending, someone who works with hundreds of thousands of mostly women with regard to their money habits, is that a common practice that you see showing up with your clients and people that you work with as well?
It is. They might not have that introversion, extroversion, but it certainly is being understanding who you are and setting up habits that work for you.
Mm.
So, for example, you might be someone that has ADHD. And so being aware of that and your own predilections when it comes to money, you might set up habits that are absolutely right for you, such as maybe automating, heavily automating, not having any sort of bad debt because you're going to more impulsively spend, making sure your investments are somewhere where they're a little bit locked away. You can't readily access them. So I believe from understanding who you are, whether that's introversion, whether that's ADHD, whether that's your different money types, whether it's your money story, you can actually set up the habits that are right for you.
Amazing. My second question, Mel, is always around the systems that help you maintain that habit. I feel like you've already answered that, though, in that a system for you to be able to manage your energy or to invest the energy in the way that you would like to across your week, the system is a intentional planning use of your calendar. Sort of, do you do that on the weekend? Do you do that a couple of weeks out from a busy week coming up? What's the process for you?
Yeah, so I work really closely with my team and I make sure, so I look and I open up spots that I'll do meetings, that I'll do keynotes, that I'll do that front facing work, and then I'll make sure that I have keep freeze or hold so that I can be away and I can do the doing work.
Mm.
And I'm very fortunate that I have a job and I've purposefully done this. I used to own an accounting firm, lots of one-on-one client works. And that really didn't like that. I was doing that because it earned me money, not because it worked well with my personality and how I am. I now have a business where I'm able to do that. But if you are an introvert and you don't have the same the allowances that I'm able to have, I used to find that even making sure that I had an hour or two of non-busy time after that client facing, or that I made sure that I was meditating more often. It's making sure you have that quiet time and you're using your diary to put it in and you're honoring that. Because it's really easy to say, no, I'm busy. I need to open up that space. But I think having great finances, having great habits can often mean having great boundaries, because if you prioritize your wellness, if you know that this is the way that I best show up, then it's really making sure that you're being really strong with those boundaries, that you're really being strong with those habits that you know are right for you. I mean, I'm probably preaching to the converted by saying this to you.
There's always a lot for me to learn, and hopefully the people are tuning into the podcast because habits is something that they're interested in. And what I love about your insight there, Mel, is that even though we're talking about protecting energy, you're talking about a whole lot of things within that answer. So there's using your calendar to your advantage. It's a really deep knowledge of yourself, and understanding that, the sort of client-facing work that you're talking about doing is expending your energy in a particular way. So then you need to recover from that so that you can be that sort of person who's in front of clients after you've done that meditation or after you've done that sort of more away from the screen, away from the public sort of work. So do you find yourself, Mel, batching the sort of work that you do on given days? And does that help protect your focus and your energy?
Yeah, and absolutely I do. So I would rather have a Monday afternoon of meetings and podcasts and then have Tuesday where I'm seeing no one, so that I know, great, I can be situationally extroverted for this period of time. Depending on the type of work that it is, I find half days work better than full days. Full days for me is just too much. By the end, it's just I'm rote doing it rather than doing it in a way that I want to show up. Someone else will be entirely different. But yeah, by understanding who you are, I feel like you're able to do this well. So Lauren, who I work with, is the opposite.
Right.
So she's an extrovert, and she works from home. So she needs to make sure that in her diary every single day she has one-on-one meetings, she has client meetings, she has accountability groups, and she probably only has 1 day a week with no contact. Because if she had a week of that, she would absolutely
Oh,
be
she'd be
the
searching for the
reverse for
connection.
me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So interesting.
And again, she would behave in a way with her husband, with her finances, other parts of life
Mm.
that doesn't serve her. So it's figuring out how you are and then setting up to suit.
And I think, thank you for telling us that story about Lauren, or Lawsy, as I as I
Yes.
know her
I know. I feel like
from your
she's
work.
probably, if she heard, she'd be thinking she was getting into
She's
trouble
in
being
trouble.
called
That's her whole
Lauren.
name. Yeah. Um, but my point I was going to make about you bringing in a colleague's work and way of
Mm.
working is that it's really important to not compare,
Yes.
your processes, isn't it? Because then you feel less than, or you feel
Hmm.
like, why am I more like that? And it's needing that knowledge that she's probably looking at you, going, oh, I need to be a little bit more like Mel sometimes as well.
And I think this is where being aware of how you are and talking to others about it, like this is how you get the best out of me, means that they're not frustrated with you. They have that understanding.
Mm,
And so my husband definitely knows. And I have an hour's quiet time in the morning where I'll get up earlier than him just so
mm,
I can have that time before I
magic
get into my
hour.
day.
Yeah.
He, interestingly, is an extrovert. So he goes out and buys a coffee every single day. Now, a finance expert might say, oh, what a waste of money buying a coffee. I'm never going to say that because
No.
that coffee is important.
Mm,
But also, he's an extrovert, and because he's not getting that thing he needs from me,
mm.
him going out and getting that coffee is his first opportunity to fill up his cup.
Yeah, he's chatting to the barista and he's talking to the other people at the cafe and
Exactly. So that financial habit is actually a really important one for him to set himself up well. If he
mm,
was to go and have 2 and 3 coffees and buy his lunch and then get Uber Eats, then sure, we might have a financial problem. But that's where I think some of the that dialogue we hear about, oh no, we shouldn't be doing that with our money. Actually, if that habit is right for you, it's actually understanding who you are and setting it up to suit.
it's a yeah, what a fabulous example. It's a more comprehensive habit because your
Mm,
husband needs the connection. So
yeah.
therefore, a system that he has in getting his coffee. And I mean, I'm the same, the luxury of the morning coffee. If I ever went to a financial expert and they said you need to cut that out, that would be
You just
red.
walk straight
Yeah,
out.
that would be you're fired. I need to find somebody else because for me,
Mm,
like your husband, that's a mindful use of my spending. That
yeah.
it's a reward for me on the way home from the gym. So for me, that's
Mm,
bundled in with another positive habit that. So yeah, I think all of this is to say that your work that is so aligned with people getting choice over
mm,
spending in the way that that suits them and their lifestyle and the person that they are is exactly why this level of thinking about ourselves, but this level of conversation is so important. So thank you for such a comprehensive answer there, Mel. I think that'll be really helpful for our audience.
you're so welcome.
Now,
It's just not a one size fits all, is it?
not
It's
at
actually
all.
thinking about what's actually right for me.
Yeah, it's really balancing that, working with people who have expert knowledge and people who
Mm,
are, have done the research and have the runs on the board, and also mapping that onto your context, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
amazing. So, Mel, why is an awareness of our money numbers and what they mean to us so important?
I think that uh, it's really just 101. So if we talked about my financial goal, which so many people's are for the new year, is to get fit. If I don't understand, or just say it was to run a 10K run, if I don't know if I'm injured to start, if I don't know my baseline, how long can I run? How long can I run without walking? How fast do I want to run the 10K? What injuries am I holding? Then actually it's really hard to map out a training plan. So it's the same for either your business or your finances. If I don't understand what my now looks like, then it's really difficult for me to know what my tomorrow and my 10 years' time will look like. And a lot of people, there is previous financial wisdom that said, just put 20% aside for savings and that'll be enough. But actually, that's the wrong answer because if you don't understand where you are today, if you don't know where you want to be tomorrow, then you can't really know what that percentage or what that number that you should be saving and investing and paying off should be for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you understanding your numbers, you understanding about investing and the whole breadth of the financial world is just so important so that we can have choice.
Hi everyone, I do hope you're enjoying The Habit Nerd. Now, whilst I love sharing research-informed, tried and tested habits for work, health and mindset on this podcast, you might not know that I am also a keynote speaker and I facilitate workshops. Now, I have opened up a limited amount of dates just in the first half of 2025 so that your organisation or event can engage me, the Habit Nerd. We can work together to refine the message just for your context, but I can use the principles of behavioural science and organisational psychology to create and sustain positive habits and cover things like task prioritisation, calendar management, hybrid work practices, managing email, and productivity habits, just to name a few. I can also help you with which habits have the most comprehensive impact across your life, work and learning habits, habits to create and maintain physical health, and mental health habits to thrive in a busy life. So if a warm, engaging presentation or workshop dripping in practical strategies and propped up by credible research sounds like something you or your organisation could really do with, then go to The Habit Nerd on Instagram. Let's work together to create some really great habits. So when we're talking about breadth and we're talking about the numbers, and that was my fault because I did use a very general term like money numbers.
Yeah.
But you've just touched on investing, for example. What are the other numbers? So I would imagine insurance is an important number to understand.
Yeah. So if I was to go and start tomorrow, I'd want to understand what have I got coming in. So a lot of people can say, oh, my wage is about 65,000, for example, but I want to know to the cent, what have I got coming in regularly? What's going out? And I don't mean what's on my hair, what's on, the minutiae, what do I give for gifts, but how much does it cost me to keep my lights on? Like, what does my life cost? What's my electricity? What's my phone, my internet, my housing, my food? Like, what are my needs? What does that cost? I also want to understand my debt. So what credit cards, what afterpay, what mortgage, what personal loans, like what debt do I have? What HEX or help debt? And then what investments do I have? So that might be my superannuation or retirement funds. That might be shares, property, and more. So it's having a snapshot so that you can decide, right, well, this is what it is today. For some people, that'll be easy. It'll be like, oh, yeah, I can gather that. For some people, just the thought of doing that is completely overwhelming and they don't want to face it. But really, this is simply what it is today. It always was that. You're just bringing it to light, perhaps for the first time. And once you know those numbers, your next question is always going to be, and what do I want them to be? And then what's the first step that I need to take in order to move towards what I want them to be?
Do you find, Mel, that people don't know their numbers because they're either overwhelmed by the, how big that piece feels, or is it also a denial about, or almost an ignorance about what they might find and being frightened about that?
I think it's half-half. So I think for people that don't know, it's either, oh, this is too hard, I don't know where to start, it just feels overwhelming. And if I think about it, I might think of a detailed budget, and the idea of that is just painful. So it's more that it's overwhelming. I don't want it to start. It's kind of like clearing out that closet or that garage or that junk room. And we all often have one, and we know it's there, and we know we should do something about it. We should. But the other half of people, it's real shame. We suspect if we were to compare ourselves, which, let's be honest, we do in all facets of our life, including our finances, we suspect we're not at the age and stage that we should be.
Right.
And we have real shame about what those numbers say about us as people. but I should be doing more. I should have more invested by now. I should have done something with that.
Mm,
And that I love Dr. Brene Brown's work with this around shame and vulnerability.
mm,
And what I always say to people with this exercise is one, we can template it so it's really easy to
mm-hmm,
put it all down and find it. But two, regarding that shame, it was always this.
mm,
The difference is you didn't know about it
mm.
before you looked. And I absolutely understand the shame, but how we get rid of that is just bringing sunlight to it. And realizing what I know and what I wished other people knew as an ex-financial advisor and having seen behind the curtains of thousands of people's finances is that the person you're comparing to, their finances are often held up by duct tape and debt, I call
Mm.
it. So your comparisons are not even based on reality. So we just need to stop comparing.
Wow, that's really powerful. I think, I mean, I completely, resonate with the with Brene Brown's work there. One of her my favorite quotes of hers that I use all the time actually across different contexts in my own life is clear is kind. And I think she often
Mm,
says that when we're giving feedback to someone or when we need to tell the truth, but I think
mm,
it even does it works here because clarity around those numbers is actually a kindness to yourself because
yeah,
once you know, you can do something about it. But I also think really helpful advice you've just given is maybe just bring something out into the light, like just
yeah,
start. Because your
yeah.
analogy with the junk room or the junk drawer, the second drawer in your kitchen,
Hmm.
it's a huge mess. But
Yeah,
if you were to open it and do 5 minutes, that that feels achievable. So
yeah,
maybe I'm just thinking about myself with my money story and my sort of, that collection of numbers. Maybe it's because we focus on, say there's 8 numbers we need to know, we focus on the 8 rather than focusing on, yeah, there's 8, but I can start with 1. I can
yeah.
start with 1 today. I can ring
Hmm.
my super company and I can find out about where my investments are and, how I'm tracking there. And then maybe next week I can call, my utilities company and find, so that to
Absolutely.
me feels safer in my body
Yeah.
than this whole overhaul sweep.
And there's no rule. There's no one standing above you saying, but Bree, you need to find those all out today. Like
Mm,
February might be the month of discovering your numbers.
mm,
Like you get to do it at the pace that's comfortable for you. Me, I'm a
mm.
rip the band-aid off person.
Right.
My husband is a slow and steady and
Mm,
little bit at a time and procrastinate for a while and then
mm-hmm,
open a little bit more. He drives me crazy. I drive him crazy
mm,
with that, but it's doing it at the pace that's right for you.
mm,
And when we watch the Olympics, or when I binged them last year, the marathon runners aren't trying to race like the sprinters.
mm.
It
That's
is
right.
quite literally about running your own race, as cliche as that analogy is.
Staying
And
in your lane.
yeah,
Yeah, what a great
exactly.
analogy. That's such a great analogy. So we are talking about bite-sized habits then here, if
Mm,
we are talking about our finances, and particularly, as we approach a new year. I do laugh sometimes with my girlfriends. We have this joke that we think that when we're grown up, we're going to have money. And then we say, oh, but that's now. Like you
yeah,
have this thing.
damn it.
Yeah, it's like, so all that is to say that we sort of need to lead ourselves a little bit, don't we? Like nobody's going to come
Absolutely.
and, we don't actually have the 20 years up our sleeves that maybe we've tricked ourselves into thinking that we do have. And
Or
there's not a man there that's going to come and rescue us, for
no.
example.
And who wants that? Uh,
Not me.
exactly. And you do have 20 years, and it is about using those 20 years really wisely because the
Mm.
earlier you start, the more that power of compound interest works for you.
Yeah, that's I mean, you would hear this all the time, but kind of as, a woman in my 40s, that's something I just wish I knew in my 20s. I just,
Oh, yeah.
like, I mean, I'm lucky to, as you say, have time on my side, but I could have more
Mhm.
time on my side. So I just think,
Yep.
that, yeah, just even that simple, even if you're micro investing, just something
Mm,
to start seeing those numbers compound on top of each other and the
that's
joy and the
exactly right.
excitement that that gives.
Yep.
So if we are wanting to start small,
Mm,
what would be one tiny habit that could support somebody on a positive long-term financial journey?
So I'm going to give you a twofer. So one is if you're someone that wants to start, that is, I want to start paying down my debt because I've got this bad debt. Want to start investing, but I just don't have a lot of extra cash to do that. I would say start finding that cash and use found cash to do it.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of us at the moment with cost of living can use that excuse of, but I just don't have any to start. I don't have any free cash to start, so I'm not going to.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a freebie on our website called 25 Ways to Find 10K in 12 Months. And only one of those is with a second job. One of my favorite examples of someone doing this was single mum. She really didn't have much free time. Her kids were desperate for a pet. She's like, you can't have one. I'm at home all the time. I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
So she pet sat and she pet walked.
Oh,
It
wow.
meant that the kids had pets to borrow, and she had pets around a lot because she pet sat them. In 12 months, by doing that regularly, she found $15,000
Wow.
from that one service. So no matter how busy you are, there is a way to find more cash. But $10,000 a year is $27.40 a day. So if you found $27.40 a day and you were to invest that, so the one tip would be start by trying to find $27.40 a day.
Okay.
And go to that freebie if you need it. And then two, decide to either use that to pay down bad debt, so credit cards, Afterpay, etc., or use that to start investing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to invest $20 a day over 30 years in the Australian share market, if I look at an average of 8%, last 30 years, the Australian share market was 9.8%, but let's be super conservative. I would have around $900,000. So this is really worth doing. And that's the power of small amounts regularly and time and compound interest. So such an easy, small habit, but the snowball effect is life-changing.
Incredible. What did our example of the person who earned the money from the dog walking and the cat sitting, what did they do with their found cash?
So first year they had quite a big amount of credit card debt.
Mm-hmm.
So first year they paid, their whole thing was I'm motivated to get rid of that, which they did in 12 months, and they really didn't expect to. So they used the
Wow.
last of that cash just for themselves as
Oh,
a good for you.
amazing. Yeah.
Second year, they started to invest it.
Oh, what a great story.
Because it wasn't just a one-off. It was, oh, wow, I have the confidence now to do this, so now I can keep going with this.
And I can imagine that would be so heartening for you in your work, seeing people just gain a little bit of momentum, because really all you need to get $2 is $1 first, and then to keep, keep that roll-on effect. And so that's a really lovely example of just being brave enough to start. I feel a little bit sick when I hear people say found cash, because I think I'm glad you said only one of them is getting a second job, because the other pressure that we feel, aside from a cost of living, which of course is significant, is just we're so busy. We've just got so much on our plates, and more so, with an aging population and women who are caring and who are the sandwich generation with aging parents on top of everything else. So what would be, I can't wait to dive into the freebie, and I hope that my audience do that as well. Have you got a couple of other examples of how to find cash?
Yeah, absolutely. So it might be that instead of doing that, you decide to every single week pick out another provider or subscription and challenge it and ask, what can I swap, pause, and cancel this to? It's going to take you 5 minutes. So your electricity, you might change provider and save $100 there. As Australians, we spend $3,500 on subscriptions every year. And the research shows that a third of that is unused. And what subscription places really rely on is for us to go, oh, yeah, I'll get to that. That seems a little bit hard.
Yeah.
So every week it would be looking at your bank account for the last 6 months and saying, right, what's a regular payment coming out that I'm going to swap, pause, or cancel? So that's two really easy ways to find more cash. A third might be if you live in an area that's quite busy, so I might live in the inner city, parking's insane, but I've
Yes.
got a driveway. I can rent out that driveway on one of the many apps that are around. So we think we know about renting out our clothes, but we don't know we can rent out our driveways, our car park, as in if we've got a car park out and where
Like a
we live.
residential, amazing.
Yeah, we can rent out our swimming pool. We can rent out so much of these latent assets that we don't use. So it's figuring out what's right for us. Lots of people during COVID bought trailers and camper vans. So it
Yes.
might be that you rent those out during off season. So it's
Wow,
it's
what a
figuring out
fabulous
what's right
idea.
for you.
Yeah, and
Mm,
I really appreciate you making me feel better about it not always being inherent with more time, doing more things
no.
to, in
Yeah.
exchange of your time for the money, which
Yeah.
a lot of us don't have.
I've got a
Um,
lot of mums that are sitting at watching the kids do soccer training or netball training, doing surveys in the car. And
right.
I'll make a lazy $20 while I sit here, or I'll sign up to test a website, and I'll make a lazy $20 while I sit in the car because I'm sitting here anyway. So
Why?
it's figuring out what's
Absolutely.
right for you.
Yeah,
Mm,
and I mean, the do you recommend people track that to gain that
absolutely.
momentum?
Yep.
Yep.
So I would actually recommend you open a separate bank account called
Hmm.
10K, and all of that found money you put in that bank account, because
Oh, wow.
otherwise lifestyle creep means we just lift
Yeah.
our spending and it
Yes.
just gets sucked up into our everyday spending. So put it aside, decide what you're going to do with it, pay down debt, buffer account, invest, and then actually start.
Oh, wow. And that
Mm.
almost feels gamified then if you can see
Yeah.
it growing in a separate account. Even better if you
Mm.
can't touch that account if you're somebody who,
Yes.
that would be tempted. Yeah, what a
Yeah.
fabulous idea. I'm gonna set that up this afternoon, Mel.
Oh, good.
Just
I
to
love that.
yeah. Yeah, because I'm a huge advocate for everything you're saying, but I never thought of keeping it separate so that it,
Mm.
didn't become grocery money or,
Yeah.
parking money.
So easy just to
Mm.
go, oh, yeah, that'll just get sucked into consolidated spending. Yep.
And as you say, lifestyle creep, the more you have, the more you spend. So
Yeah, exactly.
incredible. Yeah, that's such a great tip. I can't wait to see the rest of the ideas on the freebie. And I
Mm.
absolutely agree with you that subscription companies really rely on us being lazy and
Yeah.
not lazy, but just complacent and
Yeah.
you think it's done. So
And it's
um
hard. Like
yeah.
sometimes you have to jump through three hoops and you think, oh,
Who
fine,
could be
I'll
bothered?
just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
But again, a theme of this conversation has been don't focus on the end of it, just start it
Mm.
because once you start it, one of the hoops you'll jump through. And then for
Yeah.
me, a lot of those hoops are getting on hold, being on the phone on hold. So maybe I am the mum who needs to do that at netball training, make the phone call
Yeah,
then so that I've got the time to be on hold, for example.
exactly.
What
Mm.
great advice. Okay, Mel, is there a final message you'd like to leave our Nerd audience with to help them live a remarkable life, financially or otherwise?
I would say it is about, don't think that it's a one size fits all. Don't think that you have to fit what you have seen as, but this is what you need to do in order to financially adult. Because I think that's a real myth of money. So just because it works for someone else, just like any good habit, just because it works for someone else doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. So when it comes to your finances, try a few things. If the first one doesn't work for you, that doesn't mean you're bad with money. It just means that that habit's not right for you. So then
Mm.
try another one and try another one until you have a toolkit of habits that will actually, you can just call on in good times and bad times, stressful and non-stressful situations. That'll just pull you to where you want to go.
That's such a compassionate way to look at it, because we can get so hard on ourselves, can't we? If the first thing doesn't work and you think, why does that work for my friend or my neighbor's doing
Hmm.
so well with that?
They're
I
doing it. I
I
should just
mustn't
pick
be
it
good
up
at
and do it.
money. Yeah. Yeah, and then we
Yeah,
create all sorts of stories about ourselves that aren't true. So, yeah,
exactly.
I love that idea that, some self-compassion and keep trying,
Mm,
and as you're trying, there's learning. So you as you say, you're adding it to your toolkit. So,
exactly.
yeah, that's really kind but really sage advice. Thank you.
Mm,
Now, Mel, you are so busy doing all of the incredible work in the world that I watch, and I hope lots of my audience will now find you and keep watching. Those of us who do want to connect with you and gain more from your excellent work, how can they do that?
I will send you a link that you can pop in the show notes, but on Instagram at melbrown.money, and I'm a fancy brown, I've got an E on the end of my name.
Fancy
So
Brown.
come play over there, and I give away lots of free advice and just keep that idea of money and in your brain.
Mm.
But I'm also running some free training at the end of January. So
Hmm.
it's all designed to be short, sharp, high intensive training to get you financially moving. So we're going to cover what's your number, we're going to cover debt, investing, goal setting, and having great habits. So I love that that's actually going to form part of our training is what you concentrate on. So
Yeah.
again, links in the show notes or melissabrown.com.au/hit, HIIT.
I've already signed up. I can't wait
Yay.
to enjoy that class with you. I really I find it hilarious the marketing you're doing around that HIIT meaning high intensity interval training, but your take on it. What is it? The tagline something about with not a bit of lycra
Not
inside.
a
I
bit of lacquer
really
inside.
I
Yeah,
do. I
doing your
love.
finances in your PJs.
Yeah, I love it. I love that messaging. Yeah, really, I find that really warm and, easy to connect to. So yeah,
I love that.
okay, so as you've said, your link is in the show notes, and I'm absolutely looking forward to sharing that with our audience. I just want to thank you for all of your time and your generosity with us today, Mel. And I know this, conversation will have resonance with the audience. So yeah, a huge thank you from me and from them.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Habit Nerd. I hope you found some new inspiration, learned something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you did enjoy the episode, I would be really grateful if you could please leave a 5-star review, as it helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it should only take you 5 seconds. If you're keen for more tips and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow Habit Nerd.